what was it, CTSA Connect or whatever project. So,
Yep, we were
um,
also one of the collaborators on CTSA Connect.
okay, great, great. Well, that's good news.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, Bill's still trying to find his way around. We can't, he's a little overwhelmed. It's a big place. He's only been here since June, so he's still learning everything. But yeah, I hope to get him more involved in Vivo and ontologies. And I think that John, um, was it John that asked you, Ted? I know John's on the call now, but Ted and I have agreed to help run the ontology working group calls as well.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Yeah, because boy, Melissa is just, she's so busy.
So maybe Ted, that's another thing that we can get. I can get Bill Hogan to come give a presentation, and I can get Josh to come on and give a talk.
Again, if you like.
All right, I found two presenters for our first couple ontology calls.
Nice work, Chris.
Yeah, Chris, that was really good. And how much will you have to do for those presentations?
Not a thing. I usually pay for lunches or some kind of like adult beverage somewhere when they're around. There is some incentivization that goes in there somehow.
Good. Wow. Well, that's really good news.
So I'm sorry, Ted. I'm so far off the agenda. I've actually started recording. Hi, Tammy. How's it going up there?
Good. Sounds like everything's going pretty good by you guys.
We're hanging in there. Ted and I are a little. We're trying to get ready for the conference, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we wanted to talk today about the apps and tools contest, but it looks like that scared everybody away from the call.
Uh, yeah, at the last minute they said I could go to the conference. Woohoo!
Awesome.
Oh,
Cinderella
excellent.
gets to go to the ball. Yay!
It wouldn't be a
Don't drop your
conference without you
shoes.
guys from up north.
What's that?
I said it wouldn't be a conference without you or Eliza from up north.
You're right. Thank you.
So you don't happen to have any cool apps that you could contribute to the app contest, do you?
Uh, at the, it put my frazzled brain on display, maybe, and but sadly, no. We're just trying to get our head above water, just like everybody else. Nothing new this year. Although I was going to ask you, was there an apps and tools call maybe that I missed where you guys reviewed the Orchid stuff?
No.
Oh,
No, but
crap.
that's a good idea for a
Very good
topic. So
idea.
you mean maybe like a overview of the API or something like that?
Kinda, yeah. Like, 'cause I'm looking at some of the notes out there, and that diagram on DuraSpace is plentiful. But other than that, and like the little no, I shouldn't say little, but the uh, PowerPoint presentations scattered here and there. There's really not a heck of a lot that's conclusive as this is what we had in mind as to how to use this. You know what I mean?
Well, this
Um,
this
I,
came up yesterday. I think John answered this question. I'm trying to remember what context it was under. Maybe it wasn't yesterday. I don't know. I'm kind of mixing the days together, but I believe the ontology is now capable of handling ORCID information. And I mentioned that Ted Lawless and Mike Conlon have made tools that you can use to talk to ORCID and ingest information from them, like get citation information. So those are kind of two separate activities, but I think that basically means that we
uh,
can ORCID data into Vivo now. If that answers your question.
right. Yeah. So that was Ted Lawless and who else?
Ted, you want to help me out here, buddy?
I actually haven't worked with Orchid yet.
Was I make what was that thing we were talking about the other day? That must be losing my mind. I thought you were using Griffin Weber's disambiguation service, and you were getting in.
Yeah, but
Was
I
that
haven't
Crossref? Was I thinking Crossref?
Crossref,
I'm sorry.
right, which is related. Um, but I think what Tammy's talking, are you talking about the functionality that's been added to Vivo to help people register with Orchid?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I can clarify. This is John. what we were funded to do by the ORCID grant was not to work on connecting, like pulling publication data down from ORCID or pushing it back up, but really just providing an interface so that people who wanted to create an ORCID ID through VIVO could do that, and also, which may even turn out to be more common, so that you can have them validate that the ORCID ID that's been brought into VIVO is in fact correct, so that you connect to the API at ORCID to do that, where the person then logs in through ORCID, and then VIVO gets confirmation that that's in fact their ID, because ORCID is really not wanting people to type in their ORCID ID because they're so error prone. It's 16 digits long.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of laying this really only a first step, and the question of whether to bring. Melissa mentioned that she brought a Scopus feed of Scopus data from ORCID, and it duplicated all of her other publications. So, I mean, there's one of the questions that ORCID itself is struggling with is the fact that if they pull what to accept from people and in terms of publication data, and then what is the value of what they have from Scopus or Web of Science. So in my mind, this needs a further application interface to allow reviewing and matching against what's already in your VIVO instance. And it might be a good way to populate a new VIVO instance, but if you've got stuff in it already and you're trying to update, then the disambiguation hasn't been handled yet. So that's yet to be done. So I'm not sure whether that's something that should be done inside VIVO or whether that's something that would be better as a tool. But
Right, and that's what Ted Lawless, I think was presenting the other day with, he's got a middle tier, a publication management in between. So, and I think that's a good idea to just have something, in the middle, as far as that goes. But also what I found with the ORCID, and I had to modify just a little bit of the code on our development server just because, I wanted to be able to test it, and it won't let you connect to ORCID if you were not the owner of that profile. So not even the admin can go ahead and connect to ORCID. So I just modified just one line of code on development, and I found that it looked like, okay, it's going to accept the credentials I put in the my brain is stuck today, but in any case, when you go to the ORCID sandbox, there's, and this isn't the first time I've seen this, in the properties file, there you go, that's what I was talking about, that's what I wanted.
Right.
In the properties file, they have, ORCID sandbox -1. And somebody else here even said, yeah, go and create a profile on the sandbox, and it's sandbox-1. But that's not the URL to this, so either that -1 isn't changed, or I'm just completely wrong in what I'm looking at. So that's just kind of why I was looking for some concrete,
Yeah, I think part of it is, Jim should really be in on this call, but this discussion, because he's the one who did it all, and he knows more about the details. But I believe you have to get your own connection to the sandbox, as well as your own connection to the server. So that might not be called Sandbox1. It might be called something else. I don't know, but
right.
You have to get an individual authorization, because they're trying to, ORCID is monitoring this. They're trying to be fairly careful about what they allow. And among other things, one of the challenges for using ORCID as an updating service for VIVO is that when a person logs in, those credentials are only good for 50 minutes or an hour or something, so that you have to get them to log in again if you want to do a later update, which is awkward. So that the APA, American Psychological Association, was going to manage this by creating people's ORCID profiles for them and keeping the password, but that's not acceptable
right.
In a university setting. So
Hmm.
There are some challenges to. It's not quite as easy as it might seem. Here's another great source of publications, and they'd be clean because, first of all, they may be dirty data, and second of all, you don't have the privileges of, sending data to ORCID or getting it from the profile. Perhaps if you have some sort of bulk updating capability. I know like Texas A&M created a bunch of ORCIDs in bulk. But I think, and Colorado just did that, but I think except for that single action, I don't think they then maintain the ability to modify those records as a university. I think the individuals have to claim the records, and then the individuals have control. But it gets fairly complicated. It's worth, probably the best thing to do with your questions is to contact Katarina, I think her name is. She's the technical support person for ORCID. I think she's pretty accessible.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure that her contact information is on the ORCID website.
Sure. Thank you.
Tammy, I'm adding the contact information for her name is Catalina Euler that John was just talking about, the technical support person at ORCID. I'm adding that to the call notes.
Thanks, Ted.
So one of the other things that we were hoping we could do today with the call, instead of having a specific presentation, we wanted to brainstorm some ideas for the Apps and Tools contest, even though there's only 9 days left in the application. We're reaching out to people and saying, please submit something. So, Tammy, I might reach out to Eric, but I know Eric had worked on some semantic log parser related to VIVO. And,
yes, he did.
And so if you bump into him in the hallway, could you mention that we're having an Apps and Tools conference or contest?
Mm-hmm.
I think
if food is part of the prize, he'll be in. He's very food reward driven.
There might be some food involved. I think right now it's a trophy and a presentation, but there could be some food.
That's good too.
Do you know if he or Janos are coming to the conference?
Is Eric planning to attend?
That's right, I forgot. Eric, he's got a wedding that week.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so he won't be able to go.
Hey, Alex, what's going on, buddy? He's on mute. He's talking right now, thinking that we can hear him. So, what do you think, Ted? What were your other ideas about brainstorming?
Well, I also thought we could answer any questions if someone was working on an app, but I'm not sure anyone is. Let's just join the call.
Is Mr. Steve McCauley working on a super secret app?
Don't tell Ted.
Don't tell Ted. I saw that beard. That's a good looking beard you got going. We're gonna grow beards here in November, or at least start it when it starts getting colder.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate all the support I can get.
I figured I heard something on the radio the other day that it's at peak beard. Like we're at the pinnacle, and so men are going to stop growing beards. So I better start to grow one so I can fit in. I'm serious. I've always wanted a beard, but I was always embarrassed because everywhere I worked, everyone had to be clean shaven. But now I can have an excuse not to shave. I am all in.
Yeah, man, your window's closing. Dive in, yeah.
So, Chris, can you hear me now? This is Alex.
Hey, Alex. How's it going, buddy?
Good. I did have a question. A colleague was asking me about trying to access the UFL Sparkle endpoint, and I hadn't tried to do that before. So I was trying to help them, and I realized that it doesn't, it's not like there's a really nice UI on Fuzeki, and so I had some kind of one-on-one questions. I was just wondering if that's been documented somewhere. I did find a wiki page, but I was just wondering, like a very basic question is how, is there an easy way to determine what version of the Vivo ontology the endpoint supports?
151, and I just sent you a link, and I'm showing it here on my screen if you can see it. This is I had planned on doing a lot more examples like this and sharing them with our apps and tools working group, and I'll just say I was overcome by events. I have no excuse, but around the early days, I did make this, and there's a diagram. Here's what the data looks like that I'm getting out, and here's the Sparkle query that you need. And then if you click on this, you'll see it's a hyperlink to the endpoint, and it spits out JSON. So, and the URL is here. So basically, you could use JavaScript. If you look at the source to the page, and I've got this up on GitHub. Where is it here? You can see the example. It's ridiculously easy. There's this jQuery library, and then you use a function call called getJSON, and you pass it this query string, which just happens to have the Sparkle query in it. There's a prettier version out there. Mike has some good examples of doing this, but basically the endpoint is at sparkle.ufl.edu. Let's say Sparkle.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll take a look at
Vivo.
I'll take it.
There you go.
Look at this link. I also found Mike's examples, and that helped.
Yeah. So it's 151. We're actually working on our upgrade.
And is there a way to determine? I just thought.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Is there a way to determine what version? Just is there like a simple Sparkle query I've never thought of that comes back either with a version for VIVO or just lists all the ontologies that are contained in a triple store, all the different prefixes, or I was just wondering.
Man, that's a great question. I have no idea.
There's a way to determine that.
John?
There is a backdoor. There is a way that a property that Brian Lowe built into the ontology that he uses for detecting whether something needs upgrading when he's migrating one VIVO version to another. I don't recall myself what it is, but there is a property to indicate what version the ontology is.
So I don't know if you guys are using it, but there is a version IRI that you can associate with any ontology.
So I don't know if you guys heard that from Josh in the background here. He said, but there's a version IRI that you can associate with any ontology. So maybe that's what Brian was using. Well, that would be cool. Maybe that's another good one to try and figure out, and we'll bring that to our first ontology call. We'll be able to query the ontology for metadata. It's kind of funny because you would expect that because, in regular relational database land, there was always metadata that you could query, so you could find out all the fields in a table, right? Is that kind of what you're thinking? How to enumerate metadata about the data set?
Right. It was an interesting experience because I've generally been behind the scenes where I'm logged into the system admin interface on VIVO, and I can, find all sorts of things about that VIVO when I was at CU Boulder. So this was kind of my first interesting experience when I was on the outside looking in and trying to help somebody, and I thought, oh wow, I don't even know what version they're actually running, and it turns out that in the Sparkle query they were trying to run, they were referencing an ontology that's not referenced in VIVO, but for a second there I was thinking, oh, maybe they're on a newer version or older version, and that's why it's not, the Sparkle query is failing. So yeah, that's an idea of how to, some Sparkle queries that would help you kind of determine some of that metadata.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it would be cool. Just for the record, though, it's 151.
No, thanks for clarifying that.
And we're also still working on trying to get an M3 file out for everybody. We got a little farther last Friday. Ted was helping me use some Python scripts that he wrote, but I was having trouble getting the harvester working. So still, I got to find some time to circle back and fix that.
Also curious, in the VIVO Sparkle, the Fuzeki Sparkle user interface, it asks you. Let me just pull it up. There's a couple links kind of in the main menu,
Yeah, you got to go to
and
Control Panel and then select the data set Vivo, which there is only one. And
right,
you get this sparkle window, and if you don't select the data set, your JSON doesn't work. That's probably the thing that he didn't do, because if you just go to the
right.
sparkle,
When they first started, they were trying to use the Sparkle query
if you just go to the
form,
form, it doesn't work.
and so there's not a way to make that work by putting in the right target graph Fury.
You can, but it's in the yes, you can, but it's again, it's the that's why I sent you the example I had.
Right.
If you let's see if I can highlight the property. Let's see. It's in here somewhere. I can't. I don't have it formatted well. That's pretty bad. But you can see here, like for example, you can tell it output JSON or output N3. Um, Somewhere in this ugly string, it tells it to use Vivo. Oh, right
Okay.
there, right there. So you see how it says Sparkle UFL.edu,
Right.
Vivo WAC query. This will query the Vivo graph.
Okay.
So
Cool. I'll take a look, more of a look at that example, and like you said, there Mike Conlon's stuff on GitHub. There were a bunch of examples there as well.
yep.
Anybody else aware of any other kind of Sparkle examples that are any other lists of Sparkle queries that
Well, these
service
ones
people?
specifically use our endpoint, but yeah, I mean that's one of the things that we've been wanting to do is put together a good list because I don't think there's a lot of good examples out there for people to follow. It's been one of the big problems with apps and tools, but I haven't done much because I've been really waiting for us to upgrade. Once we get the API going, I think that that's going to be a big deal. I think that I don't know. What do you think, Ted?
There are in the Vivo wiki. There are some sample Sparkle queries that I used a while back, and I'm trying to find a link for those.
I think the problem, Alex, is that when I knew that we were going to be going to 1.6 and then 1.7 and that the ontology was going to change to ISF, I just kind of gave up on my examples.
Right. No, I understand.
Because why go write a bunch of Sparkle examples for an ontology that's not going to be used in the future? So the good news is that we're testing the upgrade right now down here. So
Oh, that's great.
um, once we get the JVM size worked out, we've been crashing it. We've been running out of heap space trying to do the upgrade. So we jacked it up to 4 gigs today, and hopefully that'll go. Um, but yeah,
Well,
once we
thanks.
get once we get that written, I mean, or once we get that upgrade done, the whole idea is that we're going to start developing hopefully more examples in ISF, which I think makes sense. And the ISF is enough of a change to where I think that our examples will last for years, hopefully, once we do them in ISF.
No, sounds great. Thanks for answering my questions. And yeah, Ted, if you find that, feel free to copy in the document. Well,
I did. I mean, so
I found one. I'm just putting it in there underneath the one that Chris pasted in. So it's like two A4, I guess. There's some more. There's a wiki page with some UF Sparkle endpoint info.
yeah, I mean, a lot of this was stuff that was brought over, I think, from SourceForge. I could be wrong, but yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good example. I think what's missing from here, which my example shows, is how to do it programmatically with Ajax. So this only really shows you how to
Right.
manually use the interface. Mine shows you
Yep.
how to spit
Oh, thank you.
that.
So in terms of the version, I'm looking at the Vivo ISF Public 1.6, and there's an RDF description about the entity, Vivo, vivoweb.org/ontology/core. that says it's Vivo ISF ontology version 1.6. So I can paste that into the.
Cool beans. Oh, cool. Very cool.
And somebody had made a mention of a version IRI that could be associated. So that's just an alternative approach that could be considered in the future, or is that also supported?
Well, I don't really understand where that would go or what. I mean, usually, for example, if you register an ontology on where most of them, many ontologies are on. I'm trying to remember all the OBO ontologies are stored in a
Obo Foundry. There's Pearls for Obo Foundry ontology.
No, it's the Perl.org.
Yeah.
So you may be able to register a version IRI with Perl.org, and we've considered registering that, creating a Perl for the ontology, but that's sort of Melissa's domain to figure out what she wants to do because of the. I know there is a Perl for the parts of the Vivo ISF ontology that are in the ARG namespace, and there's a Perl for ERO, which is the Eagle Eye namespace, but there's never been a Perl for the Vivo namespace.
Right. So the version IRI is something different. It's actually part of the OWL spec. So it's just a part of OWL. So it's associated directly with the ontology. So every ontology must have some kind of IRI, the ontology IRI, and they may have a version IRI. And these are arbitrary. They don't have to resolve. Of course, I mean, in OWL, nothing has to resolve. It's just best practice. But it might be a way to actually version the ontology while sticking within the actual OWL spec, right? So if you put it as an annotation or something like that, it might be easier to parse, but you're sort of stepping outside of the best practice for OWL.
So this one has an RDFS label. So what you're saying is there's some kind of RDFS resource type that's like owl pound version.
Yep, version IRI. That's exactly what it's called.
Look at I guessed that. I'm not as dumb as I look.
It's used, but it's not used as heavily as I think it should be. A lot of ontology versioning information is just sort of, well, let's call this a new release, and that's a community problem, I think.
See if I can find that. Oops. Oh, not owl version of Candy Crush.
That would be something.
Oh, there it is. Owl version info.
Well, so version info is a different thing. There should be a version IRI too. I'm actually not sure what version info is. It's one word, version IRI. Yep, there it is.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I don't think it gets used enough, but it's something that should be used more often. Most of that I have seen, the end part is the date of the release, which is sort of different than the naming convention you guys are using now, like 1.6 or 1.7 or whatever. But,
right.
There's probably a way to cheese that, make those two things work together. I'm just not sure what it is offhand.
Go add that. Thank you, Josh.
Sure.
We're just putting him into work here while he's visiting, you know?
Story of my life.
Hey, Max, how's it going up there, Memorial?
Hey Chris, how are you doing? Good. Well, we got very hot few days here, like almost 90 something.
Almost above freezing.
That's like saying we got cold down here. It was almost 60 something. It's not hot till it breaks 100, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, Jim just joined us, and it looks like Cornell Vivo's up to 1.7 in production. Is that correct?
That's the theory at this time.
Stop it.
I know.
And it loaded. Oh man, where did you get this? You know,
That's cool.
you're just raising the bar every time, aren't you, Jim?
Oh, actually, no. All I did was the transition. It's Tim that's raising the bar.
So who is this one researcher up here? Is this Max? Is this somebody from Cornell?
One.
Oh,
What one research?
Frederick, right?
Oh,
Cool.
Now that's the geographic focus of their what grant or
What they say themselves, what their personal geographic focus is. Those of them that do.
okay.
I like the New York one.
It's obviously not really complete, but
It's still cool.
by showing it on the homepage, they might get motivated to say, "Why am I not there?" And we'll say, "Well, add yourself."
Hmm.
Very cool. Congratulations, guys.
Very cool.
Yeah.
thank you.
So now, is this map? Is this visualization? Is this part of? It's not part of the install, right?
It's an optional thing you can turn on with
Oh.
1.6.
And what's Leaflet?
Leaflet is a JavaScript mapping tool.
Ah. Very nice. And who did this for you guys? You mentioned
Tim Worrell. Do you remember Tim?
I know. I don't. The name sounds familiar. I don't remember if I met him.
He likes to remain in the shadows.
Very cool. We may have to get him to come in and tell us how he did this. Sounds like a great presentation. So, does this qualify Tim for the Apps and Tools contest, or is he not qualified?
He's probably a little bit too close to he's sort of doing this on the payroll, or on the sort of as part of his VIVO work. I mean, actually, he's not paid by the VIVO DuraSpace effort, so it's all Cornell support. But,
Yeah, I mean, Miles Worthington got it 1 year, so, all bets are off.
Well,
If he's not getting paid by DuraSpace, I think that qualifies him. I mean, or could he spin something up that does this on just a web page for something else?
yeah.
I think is he coming to the conference, or is he not a conference guy?
He's not coming this year. He's been to previous ones, but he's got a conflict this year.
Oh, okay. Maybe
The other app that if you look at impact.cals.cornell.edu, Miles just updated the portal for one college at Cornell wants their public impact. That uses the same mapping stuff. Miles did this. It's actually just a refresh of an older site, but
I like these little JavaScript pie charts too.
Yeah, nice.
Those are very nice. More map. The age of visualization. This is pretty cool. I'm still using Leaflet. Now, some of this semantic data that he's using.
it's out of VIVO. I mean, it's actually from a faculty reporting system that's kind of laundered through VIVO and structured more consistently, and then passed on to this for visualization.
Oh, come on. He's got to put something in for that.
And the dean, there's a hidden backdoor to this where the dean can go and print out projects by legislative districts. So when somebody from a particular legislative district, you can print out a report that lists all the things this college has done for the particular county in New York State lately.
That's very cool.
That's very strategic. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's all about the data. Well, this is exciting. How long ago did you guys put this out?
Well, it's been up in an earlier form for a couple of years, and then Miles just updated it because we had newer data.
That's awesome. So does anybody have any questions about the apps and tools contest? We seem to be just dancing around here, but I don't know if we like open it up for questions.
So, so under ideas, are you like looking for like people to submit?
That's what I had thought, is that we would tell people, hey, that stuff you've been working on, that's an app or a tool. Some people don't think their work rises to the level of something fantastic, and we're like, no, people would like to see that.
So
even Sparkle query examples that actually do, get some data out. Like if Alex just had a web page that rendered metadata about VIVO using Sparkle queries and had those Sparkle queries, that's an app, in my opinion. People would love that, or a tool.
So would you want to? We should probably touch base with the last folks, and because Mick has done some, he's developed some tools.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that they've put some out on GitHub too, I believe. Maybe a mistake.
Yeah.
I want to say I've encouraged Mick to apply, but if anybody talks to him before I do,
I'll send him a note.
Thank you.
Sure. Where should I direct him?
There's a wiki page. And
that's
there's also
right.
an announcement right here up at the top of the notes.
Okay.
Make that a little bigger.
Thanks, Chris.
No problem. You should thank Ted. He put together the good agenda.
Thanks, Ted.
So another possible topic is, particularly now that Jim is here, is what should we do for the fall hackathon? I've got spaces reserved. I've got to check with hotels and make sure there's not some huge, like a college parents weekend or something happening. But I've got approval from Dean to have a hackathon here October 12th and 13th, a Monday and Tuesday. That interests anybody?
Yes, it does. I mean, Ted and I want to do it. We were just trying to catch our breath, but since you've gone to that much work already, John, I would say that I'm in. I'm not going to volunteer Ted, but I think. What do you think, Ted?
Yeah, I think we'd definitely be interested in coming for something like that.
I think John had more in mind of setting it up and running it.
Well, we can do all the local arrangements and help, and make some, contributions. But I think it'd be important for you guys to come, since you've been.
No, we want to do it. We'll help. We're starting to brainstorm. It's just we're trying to finish up our workshop, and
yeah, we don't need to do. I'm just trying to get the dates reserved to make sure I have spaces. And
no, I appreciate it. Thank you again for doing all the legwork. And you're going to make sure
doing a workshop.
It's going to make sure it's warm up there in October too, right?
It is frequently gorgeous here in October with the turning of the leaves. People talk about going to Vermont or New Hampshire, but upstate New York is also very nice.
Well, cool.
And yes, it will be warm. We consider warm to be about mid-50s.
There you go.
So, Chris, you'll be able to test out your beard.
Yeah, I'll bring a couple parkas too. We went to the hackathon in North Carolina in Raleigh in March, and I couldn't open my door the first day. We were late to the hackathon because my door was frozen shut. I was like, "What is this? Get me back to Florida." Does anybody have any? Jim had a great proposal about building a REST API for VIVO as part of something either to do at the hackathon or to do, as part of in relation to the hackathon. Does anybody have any ideas or feelings? Or there's been some talk lately. We had a call recently about VIVO core committing. And there's been some talk about exposing more of the VIVO data, or basically abstracting away complexity for developers so they can develop at the edges. CTSIT budget meeting. Sorry about that, guys. And so I just wonder if anybody had any opinions on that.
Well, let me just say that one reason that appealed to me, and I think that any kind of API project, if you want to focus around a particular project, one of the nice appeals of that is that it breaks down into separate groups really easily. Certainly two groups, one on each end of the API, and very possibly, it could have several people working on different front ends to show it off. I don't know, again, it was a half-baked notion, but the idea of having that kind of interface so that we can, do a quick mock-up of it, so people who are using the interface, writing clients, could get right to work. I was just thinking that might be helpful for the hackathon structure.
I think it would too. I think that there's some of those, some of the comments we've gotten in the past are there's not enough examples of people that are used to web services to interact. Just to be clear,
I also like. I think it was Lane that made the devious comment that if we give them an API and they find that or feel that it's incomplete, then we've sort of suckered them into doing some Java coding instead of just JavaScript coding. Well, you want that API to be better. This is where it's got to happen.
Yeah, would I do something devious or say something devious like that, Jim?
I think your character is being revealed more and more, Lane, as time goes by.
He was telling me the other day his favorite book was Machiavelli's The Prince. So, I don't know.
Is that right?
I have read it.
I'm sure you have. So just to be clear, though, is there any changes to the API in 1.7? So what can the API in 1.7 do now?
The biggest change is that we now have a compatible Sparkle Query API to go with the Sparkle Update API, and that does content negotiation. There's also been improvements to the content negotiation and the linked data requests, and the list RDF was something that would barf after, if you asked for too many, if you had too many individuals that you were trying to list, and now that seems to be much more robust. Chris, you also know that the ability to export a large data model was a problem, and I believe at this point we can export the entire data model on a streaming basis without having to worry about memory running out. Now, whether we can import the entire data model is another question, but we could certainly export it for analysis.
Well, that was our big thing. We're still trying to get, make it easy to spit out all of your triples as N3 so you can do visualizations, things like that you might not want to do.
Yeah, so you can spit out all your triples as N quads. And actually, come to think of it, there's a couple of different, they can come out as JSON as well, but they come out with the graph ID alongside them.
Although, I know this is kind of like being a squirrel, but I have to show something that every time I talk to Ted Lawless, he makes me smarter. So I don't know if everybody knew that, so if you go into a profile and you're used to seeing this button that says show me the RDF, right? And I got to do this in Firefox. I don't know why Chrome won't open it. So the RDF is here, but he showed me that you could change this, and I didn't know that it emitted turtle, and I don't know how I ever missed this. So.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel bad. I didn't realize that until Eric showed me. We all have our
Okay, so
uses.
that brings up the documentation question, and I did try to improve the documentation for the APIs also, including linked open data, and which is what that is, and the list RDF. If you go to the index and pick a class, no, actually to the index from the top right. So yeah, click on clinical faculty, and if you click RDF there, that also will open as RDF XML by default. But I think in order to get that, you can't just change the URL. You actually have to use an accept header to get that as N3 or Turtle or what have you.
That's pretty cool, though. You could always just convert that to whatever you want.
Yeah,
Sure.
I didn't know that list was available. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, this is one of the things that was unreliable. If there were more than about 50,000 items in the list, you would have an out-of-memory error. And with 1.7, that I believe has been fixed. I mean, okay, it has been fixed as far as I've been able to test. I'm going to say it is fixed. But I know you're going to turn around and say, well, Jim, we've got, 400,000 publications, and this thing busted.
You know what's weird though? Look at this. It for our clinical faculty, when I click list, what would I be expecting?
You
This
just
looks,
want a list of URIs.
yeah,
This was developed for the VIVO search application to get a list of URIs and then come back and do a linked data request with every URI.
Right, but what you do get is a list of triples that says this person is a member of your clinical faculty, that person is a member of clinical faculty.
I might have opened the wrong one. Hold on a second.
Oh man, don't give me this.
At first I was like, wow, that's just messed up. That was all the course labels, but
Let me just say, Chris, that whatever you're seeing that's wrong has been fixed in version 1.7.
I knew he was going to say something like that. Whenever Mike complains about something that doesn't work, I said, I'm not even going to email Jim because he's going to go, that's fixed in 1.7. I'm learning. So thank you, Jim, for all your help. We did increase the Catalina ops this morning to 4 gigs, and it should be running right now. It's taking all day, but
Yeah, it takes a long time to migrate the data. It's a one-time thing.
yeah,
I think it took Eliza more than 24 hours or something. So.
Oh,
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, actually, because if this runs past 12, which is where we were airing out before, that'll make me feel better. So.
Yeah. I concur. I migrated SUNY Reach to 1.7, and it took 24 hours.
24. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Good. Someone's putting that in the notes. Thank you, because I didn't see that documented anywhere about what people were seeing about how long it was taking.
Mm.
That was not from 1.6 to 1.7 doesn't take. There's no migration involved there, but migrating from 1.5.1 to 1.6.
So I'm sure this is not a topic for our call, and I'm stealing the Thursday call, but Is there much impact from going from 1.6 to 1.7? Because I mean, I really want that Sparkle API. I want the query
Oh,
API.
I mean, the idea, I mean, Jim started it this morning, and we actually started about 11:30, right? So,
Yes, I was supposed to start it this morning.
So what you're saying is Jim started it, went to lunch, came back, it was done. That's how easy it is?
It really, because there is no knowledge base migration, that really, it just slides in.
Well, very cool.
I also just copied the search index over from the previous home directory. I mean, we're creating a new home directory, but I just stole the index from the old one because there's no changes to the search index.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and it would take forever to rebuild the search index, right?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. That is a good idea, Mr. Jim Blake.
Well, in some releases it may not be viable, but in this one it was.
Well, we're running up upon 2 o'clock, and I want to make sure that I didn't hog the whole agenda. I don't know if Ted had anything. He's usually so he talks so much that I can hardly get a word in edgewise.
So other than, I guess our next meeting, it falls the week of the conference, so we'll probably want to skip that one and plan to meet again on, looks like August 19th. Does that sound right?
I believe it does. And also, everyone be aware that we'll probably be sending out a new schedule because we're going to be doing this call once a month, and then 2 weeks from this call, we'll be doing an ontology call. So this call will be dropping back to once a month, so that we'll have more time to prepare. Be a little bit more polished, have some presentations, and same thing with ontology. That's our
Hey,
plan.
couldn't take the pressure, huh?
What's that?
So you couldn't take the pressure?
I couldn't, Jim. It was too much, man. That and everything that I know about ontology could be written in a matchbook with a grease pencil. So it's going to take me some time to work on that.
Hey, Chris, regarding the once a month schedule for the apps and tools call, could I coordinate with you, because Duraspace has a bi-weekly all staff meeting that conflicts with this call, and I really hate missing these calls. So when you get to the point of picking dates, can we touch base, just because I would really like to attend these?
Well, I think we could shift the week, especially since we're taking a break from the conference. Would this, if we went not this week, but every off week starting, you know what I mean? Would that work?
I think it may, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, let me know. I mean, Ted, I'm open to that. Ted, what do you think?
That sounds like a good idea.
Thank you, Ted. I appreciate it.
This is Alex. I had a question. I think I might have emailed you about it, but this idea of scheduling a time to have some people from the Fedora project talk with us as a community, not so much just at the leadership level. Do you all feel that this is the right forum for it, the apps and tools, or is that better off in another one of the calls? I think the idea is around sharing some knowledge and trying to see if there's common interests at the technology level.
No, I think it's a good idea. In fact, I'm remiss. There's actually someone from the Fedora project that lives here in Gainesville, and we've been crossing emails, and I haven't followed up enough. We're supposed to go have lunch and get him on board. So no,
cool.
I don't think it's a bad idea at all. And maybe Lane can help us too, or Ted. So Ted, you have one of your colleagues that works on Fedora too, right?
Yeah, we use Fedora here at Brown as well. So
we don't actually use Fedora here at UF, if I'm not mistaken. All right, somebody's kids are having too much fun in the background there. I heard that.
Well, let me know if there's anything that I can do. Who is it? Andrew Woods that lives in Gainesville?
That sounds familiar.
Well,
Okay.
I think Andrew's the fellow that lives out here in Colorado, and I think he said a name was Esme, but I could be wrong about that. Is that?
Could be.
That sounds right. Yeah.
He did send me an email, so it's completely my fault. If you need to do anything, Lane, it's to yell at me and send me nasty grams going, did you go to lunch with that guy yet? Because it's
Okay. But I think that Andrew, I think Andrew lives in Florida.
somebody does, and I don't. I'm just horrible at names, and I can't remember right now.
Yeah, I guess I don't. Alex, you might know because I think you met him at the Carl thing, right?
Right.
Nice talking to you guys. I'll
Yes.
see you soon.
All right, thanks everybody, and I appreciate
thank
it.
you.
We'll be seeing you in Austin.
Okay, thank you.
Hey.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Enjoy the summer.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.